Yeah, welcome to the BIS. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I've even got a script for this bit now, which is pretty amazing, thanks to Jerry here. So if you haven't been to one of our meetings before, please do come and say hello to one of us before you leave. We have a few notices for you. Firstly, if an alarm should go off, then make your way to the exit at the front of the building. And unless, of course, there's a problem, in which case, go to the rear exit. So I think we all know which way to go. If there's a fire at the back, we leave at the front. Fire at the front, we leave at the back. If you're too cold, then wave appropriately. Or if you're too hot, the toilets, I think everyone knows where they are. So yeah, that looks uncannily like Elon Musk from this angle. But anyway, we won't go there. Okay, yeah, phones on silent. If you can, you don't have to switch them off, but you're welcome to send tweets. Apparently, is that what they're still called, or they're called X's? Yes, they're still called tweets. Okay, and Facebook posts. This event is being streamed on Zoom, and those watching are welcome to send in questions during the presentation using the chat function. For everyone here at the BIS, when you come to the Q&A, please wait for a microphone. Otherwise, the people on Zoom will not hear you. If you want to take photos, that's okay, but please don't use flash. So I'd like to introduce Jerry Stone, who I think everyone is very familiar with. Probably best to let Jerry introduce himself now, because I've done quite a bit of talking. So I think hand over to Jerry now. So Jerry.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Very good to be back here with you. I've recently become a member of the BIS Council. For those who don't know me, I'm a freelance space presenter, a broadcaster, and an author, an expert on various aspects of space exploration. I've given presentations on space across the UK and abroad for over 50 years, plus many TV and radio interviews. I've spoken about space at the Edinburgh Festival, the Royal Institution, the Royal Observatory, the Palace of Westminster, the World Science Fiction Convention, and a rock festival. In fact, I've given more presentations at the BIS than anyone else since my first one back in 1977. I'm regarded internationally as an expert on the Apollo program and on space habitats. And today I'm looking back at a special event in the history of space exploration as I cover the 50th anniversary of the Apollo-Soyuz test project. So looking back 50 years, what was the world like back then? Well, the world population was just over 4 billion people. As of last Saturday, it was a bit over 8.2 billion. And major events around the world back in 1975 included the Watergate scandal, resulting in the former Attorney General of the United States and others being found guilty and sent to jail. The second stage of the Saturn V that launched the Skylab space station re-entered the Earth's atmosphere over the Indian Ocean. At Disney World in Orlando, Space Mountain opened. Whereas on the other side of the Atlantic, work on the 1974 Anglo-French Channel Tunnel was abandoned. Landsat 2 was launched, providing resources to monitor the Earth in various ways. And Erno Rubik applied for a patent for his little toy. Meanwhile, Margaret Thatcher became the leader of the opposition and was Britain's first female leader of any political party. 1975 also saw the premiere of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft and released their Altair Basic Interpreter. We also saw the premiere of Jaws with Lines Around the Blocks, and NASA launched Viking 1 to Mars. There were various people that we said goodbye to, like Sir Julian Huxley, British biologist, P.G. Wodehouse, the English writer, Gustav Ludwig Hertz, the German physicist, Nobel Prize laureate, who worked out about effects of electrons in atoms. Dame Barbara Hepworth, the English sculptor. Dmitri Shostakovich, the Soviet composer. James Robertson Justice, favourite for many of you, I'm sure, British actor. Arnold J. Toynbee, the English historian. William Hartnell, the first Doctor Who. Graham Hill, racing driver. And Bernard Herrmann, American composer, who did the music for Citizen Kane, North by Northwest, Psycho, The Birds, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and many others. But we also welcomed some new people, including Russell Brand, Angelina Jolie, Tobey Maguire, Liz Truss, Kate Winslet, Tiger Woods, Mila Jovovich, and Vix Southgate. So what happened back then that, well, the Apollo-Soyuz project was what happened, but how did that start? How did it all come about? The story for that goes back many years. The purpose and catalyst of Apollo-Soyuz was the policy of détente between the two Cold War powers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Tensions ran high between the world superpowers while the United States was engaged in the Vietnam War. And although the Soviet premier, Nikita Khrushchev, made the Soviet Union's Party of Détente official back in 1956. Peaceful existence at the 20th Congress of the Communist Party, the two nations seemed to be in perpetual conflict. After John Glenn's 1962 orbital flight, an exchange of letters between President John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev led to a series of discussions led by NASA Deputy Administrator Hugh Dryden and his Soviet counterpart. Their 1962 talks led to an agreement which was formalized in October that year. At the same time, the two countries were in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The agreement was formally announced at the United Nations on the 5th of December, and it called for cooperation on the exchange of data from weather satellites, a study of Earth's magnetic field, and joint tracking of the NASA Echo 2 balloon satellite. Kennedy actually interested Khrushchev in a joint manned moon landing, but after Kennedy was assassinated in November that year, and Khrushchev's removal from office in October 1964, the competition between the two nations heated up and talk of cooperation became less common. With the end of the Vietnam War, relations between the two superpowers began to improve, as did the possibility for a potential cooperative space mission. Apollo-Soyuz was made possible by the thaw in these relations, and the project itself was intended to amplify and solidify the improving relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. According to Leonid Brezhnev, the Soviet and American spacemen will go up into outer space for the first major joint scientific experiment in the history of mankind. They know that from outer space, our planet looks even more beautiful. It is big enough for us to live peacefully on it, but it is too small to be threatened by nuclear war. But both sides had severe criticisms of the other side's engineering. Soviet spacecraft were designed with automation in mind, and each Soviet spacecraft had been designed to minimize risk due to human error by having fewer manual controls with human operators, which human operators would have to operate during the flight. By contrast, the Apollo spacecraft was designed to be operated by humans on board, and it required highly trained astronauts to operate. The Soviet Union criticized the Apollo spacecraft as being extremely complex and dangerous. Christopher Kraft, director of the Johnson Space Center, criticized the design of the Soyuz. He said, "We in NASA rely on redundant components. If an instrument fails during flight, our crews switch to another in an attempt to construct a way to continue the mission. Each Soyuz component, however, is designed for a specific function, and if one fails, the cosmonauts land as soon as possible." The Apollo vehicle also relied on astronaut piloting to a much greater extent than did the Soyuz machine. Well, the American astronauts had a very low opinion of the Soviet spacecraft, as it was a craft that was designed to be controlled from the ground. This was in contrast with Apollo, which was meant to be flown from the spacecraft. But then they were designed for different missions. Soyuz was a craft for use in Earth orbit, while Apollo was designed to be flown to the moon. Ground control would be useless and dangerous, with a round trip of 2.5 seconds for the effect of a radio command to be monitored back in mission control.